Okay, recording. Great. Hi guys, how you going? So
Good.
first of all, there's an introduction section. So this session, thank you for coming and doing this session by me. For me, thank you very much. So this session is to help teachers like us feel more confident supporting students with equitable learning plans, and looking at ways to manage challenges, reducing stress, and creating an inclusive classroom using RMIT support services. So I'd like to hear your thoughts before we start. How do you feel about the supporting students with equitable learning plans? What's been working well for you, and what challenges have you faced? And are there any concerns or ideas that you'd like to share about making your classes more inclusive?
Okay, so first of all, my opinion is that I don't believe that we have any training at all, really, to help people that have learning difficulties. And we get these ELPs, but we actually don't have any training to help people that are on the neurodivergent spectrum.
Yeah.
So it's one thing is having the learning plan that says what might assist them, but it's another actually teaching and dealing with that student.
Yeah. What do you think, Aish?
Yeah, I agree with Jeannie, is especially because the kind of ELPs that we get, there's a bit of a diversity also in terms of the type of help students need. And for some of them who are seriously on the spectrum, and then some of them who have attention deficit issues, like usually they would say, hey, you just need to spend a little bit more time with this one student. But that's, again, like Jeannie said, that's not actual training, and that's not enough. That's not going to work for students who, and I've noticed this where when we talk about the students in, like all the other teachers talk about them, I notice that they're not really engaged in this subject, but then they do really well in something else. So that tells you that it's also the way that they learn. And so we're not being told, it's like, is the student more visual? Are they more someone that, likes written text, whatever they find difficult? So yeah, without the training, the only thing that we end up doing is devoting more time. And that can, like it can actually impact the time that we can give to other students and also to the work we need to do.
It sounds great. I mean, yeah.
And also the other thing is the ELPs are kind of irrelevant to our actual course subject and what we teach. They are a blanket ELP for everything that a student might learn. And in the creative industries, it's very different.
Yeah, it is. And you're on the fly and you are spending more time because part of the time you're guessing. You're trying to work it out, aren't you?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. To start, what do you see your main responsibilities when supporting students with equitable learning plans? How do you define success in creating an inclusive classroom, and what personal goals or aspirations do you have to improve your teaching practices in this area?
Okay. Well, my main responsibility, like I see it, as make sure the student understands your material. That's the first responsibility.
Right.
Even before you actually get them over the line with the assessment. It's like what I'm saying or how I'm communicating, is that actually getting through?
Right.
And I often use it as a benchmark to adjust my learning material for everybody. When I get a student like George in the class and I think about what he understands, I actually worked out he actually understood my material a lot better than the people in the class that weren't neurodivergent in some cases. In some cases, it's great, right?
Because you're not sure what the neurodiversity is, and maybe
That's right.
their talent is to absorb they can absorb certain material much better.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, Aish?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the ones that have ELPs, I mean, first of all, sometimes it can be a bit, it takes a while for the ELPs to come in. So you're unsure. And so sometimes there's a bit of a late start in finding out, okay, who needs what kind of help. The other thing is, yeah, I agree with Jeannie that, the first thing you want to do is to make sure they understand the instructions. But I remember I've had a few students where I do take extra time to explain to them clearly, and I show them on Canvas what they need to do. I even say, hey, do you need me to write this down?
Yep.
And it doesn't seem to stick. So it's like even when I do, like really simplify it, it's not seem to it's not seem to be having an impact, which sometimes gets me confused. I'm like, wait, do you have it like a learning difficulty, or do you not want to be here? Yeah, so like some of it is unsure. So I think, like better instructions, I guess, in the ELP would be very useful, but I'm just sometimes confused with how to deal with these students.
This is great. I
Yeah.
mean, basically, it follows through the reality section of these questions. How do you think you're currently meeting the needs of the students with equitable learning plans? How do you feel you're doing well, and whether there might be gaps compared to what is expected, and expectations is quite high. And are there any areas where you'd like more confidence or support? So I think the most important thing is about support to increase confidence. What would you think? Go to Aish first. What do you think kind of support you would really appreciate with the ELP students?
Oh, that's an interesting one. So I think the first kind of support would be, oh, I do remember there's been a few students who have had support people come in with them. I'm not saying everybody needs this, but sometimes it can be easier to communicate with those people. But
Mm-hmm.
I also do think that it would be good to have some kind of training. And I mean, I know I can be a bit skeptical of training because they try and get you to do modules, which doesn't, it's not real training. But I think at least some kind of training that helps us identify what some of these issues are.
Mm.
And
I
I,
love that idea.
yeah, and also, yeah, it's just because for us, we're teaching in the Cert 4 as well, and Cert 4 is one place where there's a lot more openness to bringing in students who may not have, I guess you say, the aptitude because it's a tester. So
Yeah.
we're going to see a lot more of them in there. So I think if we really want to try and help students, like find their footing, and if we want them to continue, it's trying to see, okay, like what are some of the signs, and then maybe we can work out, what type of class activity can be done that can also identify some of these, who's good at what, and then how they learn.
That sounds
Mm.
great. Yeah. Jeannie, anything? Would you like to say
Yeah,
anything?
no, I love that idea. I also think that it needs to be actual teaching practice where we workshop scenarios and think about or share ideas on how even post course, like if we teach a course, we should all get together and share how we manage students that we all had.
Yeah.
But also pre-course refresher. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like how do we teach students with specific needs and ELPs?
Yeah. Absolutely. I would look.
Every
Yeah.
year, I think every year we need to do this because it's changes all the time.
It's true that it's a huge responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's an extra
huge.
responsibility. Like first aid refreshers every 2 or 3 years, or every year you have a refresher, right? So my next is, are there any time pressures, workload issues, or resource gaps that affect? You mentioned the resource gaps that probably,
Yeah.
how do you feel your emotional skills? This is a more personal one, like staying calm under stress or adapting to change impact your ability to manage these challenges? And are there any personal or work situations that make this harder? So um, this is
Yeah,
the
like when you
questions
get
I was going
more,
to
when you
specifically,
get
yeah.
some quite high needs students, more than one in a class, it gets really difficult. I had one class like that, three students that were quite high needs in the diploma. And they basically took up all the time in the classroom
Yeah.
at
80s.
first. When they
Right.
settled down, that was fine. They kind of got into the rhythm of stuff, but the first 6 to 7 weeks were really difficult.
That's interesting because that's the most stressful time for the
Yeah.
student, isn't it? They're in a new environment. It probably most likely very threatening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think students we had this semester, there was one particular student who really struggled with instructions. But what I also heard is, and I noticed this myself, is that student was distracting other students. And that's one of those things where when it comes to an ELP, sometimes if you get a student engaged through a way in which they're interested, because if you don't do that, they can actually start becoming a bit of a hindrance to the learning environment for other students.
How do
So
you, yeah. How do you manage that when they become a hindrance?
It was this one particular case was difficult. Usually what I try and do is get them into group work, small little groups, and make sure each of them has a task to do, and go around and make sure that they've divided up that way. But this particular student, I think, yeah, they really struggled. In fact, there was actually other students who had complained saying this person's not doing anything. So there are going to be those individual cases, but maybe, I mean, I don't know, maybe if you guys can tell me, like, do you think that getting them into group work, because I tried to do a lot more group work this semester to get them to interact with each other, to get them to, divide responsibilities. They can learn some other skills in that process. And also, sometimes they interact with each other better than they do with us as
Yeah.
their teacher.
Actually, this is an interesting discussion. It is, because it follows through to the next one, is what strategies can be used, and I'd love to hear it from you two as well. And and what different approaches are. I know each student is different, and how might collaboration with us all together in regards to approaching students. So let's just talk about what your techniques individually is with as a teacher with ELP students.
Well, in the Cert 4, I work collaboratively all the time.
Yeah.
Just as a whole group, though.
Yeah.
So I encourage discussion and sharing of information and helping each other in class. I find it harder to do this in the diploma.
How
For
come?
some reason, like the Cert 4 are more open to working in teams and working in groups and discussing things, because they are by nature more social.
Right.
Because they're in screen production. They know that they're going to be working in teams. They start off in group work anyway. So I find the Cert 4s easier in a way, but the diplomas are usually quite sort of introverted people. And I find often there's one or two students that are really, I can tell straight away how neurodivergent they are by how they can't follow instructions in the first couple of weeks. And generally, the way I manage them is that I will give instructions on what to do. And then I have a list of 3 or 4 students that I'll just go and talk to first to just clarify that they know what they're doing. Yeah, just to make sure that they know what task they are doing right at this moment. So that I don't know how else I can manage it, because we don't do a lot of group work in the diploma.
Whereas Aish, you do group work. You mentioned that before.
Yeah, so that's in the Cert 4. Now in the diploma, because I'm in the diploma of content creation as well as Vega, and in Vega, it's like I share this subject with you, Ari, which is the sound recording. So they do have to work in groups quite often. And so in terms of, I mean, it's actually been all right so far, and it's primarily because like, this is one thing that's probably a problem for all of them, which is that you try to get them to get all of their phone numbers so they can hold each other accountable, and they really struggle with that.
Yeah.
To show up to a recording session. But even in content creation, there is group work, but it's when it comes to the ones who have any type of learning difficulty that I've noticed, and sorry, with the ELP being provided, it's yeah, I think I agree with Jeannie, which is that the Cert 4s, there's a bit more of a, maybe it's the way the program is structured. It just it sort of gets them to be a bit more collaborative. Whereas in the diploma, because I think it's not as, it's a lot more rigid, I'd say.
Yeah.
Because it has to be. It can be a little bit harder for students that have ELPs. So again, what I try and do is I tell students, even if they have standalone assessments just individually, I always say I'm happy for you to share resources with each other, work with each other. Just don't copy off each other. Like I have to make that very clear. But that's one of the ways in which I can engage students who have ELPs, is because that way, because that way they can find a group that they're comfortable with. and work with them. But yeah, I really think for something like this that we need a bit more training, because otherwise we're just dumping the problem onto other students to solve for us, and we don't know how effective they're going to be.
Absolutely. I think it's something that we should request as a group in regards to training for ELP. I don't know if it'll be listened to, but as a group, I would encourage as well, particularly Cert 4. It didn't seem to have many meetings amongst teachers for the Cert 4 that we have a sit down sometime next semester if we're all doing Cert 4. So just to talk about, particularly about the ELP students and how we are addressing it, or have different perspectives. That would be, I think, really helpful. I got a last group of questions. Thank you so much for your time. The last is, what specific steps are you willing to take in the next week, next semester, to improve how you support students with equitable learning plans? Can we agree on a clear timeline of these actions, and how will you track your progress and let me know how it's going? Are you comfortable committing to these changes? That's a bit vague, these questions. So let's look at it in the context of next semester. I was leading that possibly that we could meet up, organize a meetup once per semester, maybe after the 6th week or something.
Yeah, I would say week 4.
Week
I'd
4.
say, before the course cutoff, before they leave.
Census, yeah.
Yeah, before census date, which is usually week 7 or 8 anyway. So maybe week 4 would be really great, because at that stage, if we're having any real issues with students, that'll come out. It'll be usually week 3, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but by then we should have been given the ELPs, right, to all the students. So yeah, and also, yeah, the other thing is obviously to keep in mind is that sometimes students get an ELP in the middle of the semester. Sometimes certain students get it because we encourage them to get it, because we can see that, some signs are a bit obvious as well. And so we encourage them. In certain cases, they don't get it, and which means you have to treat them like everybody else. But yeah, I like the idea of having, like
a meeting in week 4.
Yeah, a meeting. Yeah, a meeting at that time. And also, like, if we are to track this, because, if we're on the same program, having, like, because we have spreadsheets for so many different things, it would be good to have one specifically for the ELP students as well, where we can leave notes and comments. And also it'll be easier to see how they track across different subjects. I know that we have a regular tracker, but it's nice to have one that is specifically for ELP students.
Yeah, it's not really, it's not like it is, you're right, it's good, but it's not really enough for us. Yeah.
I think, it isn't, it's not enough. I mean, we need to have an extra support from RMIT. Absolutely. Training. I remember doing equitable learning. I was doing academic support work for people with disabilities before I started teaching. I was shocked how much they didn't tell us, that we walked in cold turkey and we had to play it by ear. It's like a thing that I don't know why, if it's policy, not to tell too much information about the students.
Well, the interesting thing is, we just had the Canvas review, the Canvas workshop, and we're asked to do accessibility in our Canvas shells, and it's all about getting everything on the Canvas shell. But the accessibility they're talking about is kind of more about screen readers and, like, if you are vision impaired. But what we really need is how to structure information for people with more neurodivergent issues. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of accessibility we really need to learn, not just if an image has an alt tag.
Yeah.
Which is what you would do if you were a government website and you were open to the whole world, right? And everybody needs it. But we're here and we're in a visual program trying to support people with learning needs.
Yeah.
So ours should be more, how do we structure the content, the information we give to students? How can we best support people?
This is good. This is a very emotionally intelligent meeting. Thank you so much. I think we're done. This is great. I really will follow through next semester for week 4. And that'd be great.
I think we just also did a training needs analysis without even realizing it.
Oh, great.
We did? Can I
Well,
put that in
yeah,
there?
like, well, what do you think? Like RMIT, like we need support.
Yeah, that
Oh,
sounds
So we
good.
need training in this area. We have none.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Okay.
we could even like analyze the kind of support we have, which is probably a learner module up in our workday.
Sounds
Mm,
like a great idea. Okay. Thank you so much, guys.
Right, you're welcome.
I'll
no
stop
See you,
problem.
recording.
Ari. Can we have a record it? Can I have a copy of the